I've got a question here from Brody, and the question goes like this. When I was meditating earlier, a bee flew by my open window and I felt the fear without becoming it. It was like water was vibrating or scared, so it became unsteady. This is feeling an emotion and is something I want to get better at. How to be aware of the feeling and effect of the emotion is hard for me. Yes, so it's this fear that's arising. You're meditating and a bee flew by your window. So maybe you're just hearing, you're aware of the sound of the bee. And as you're hearing the sound of the bee, there's this emotion that arises. There's this fear that's arising. And how you're saying the water, using that analogy that was unsteady, is that from the meditation, you've got this more of a tranquil mind, but then all of a sudden it gets very disturbed. Your peace is disturbed by this emotion that's arising in it. And you're asking, well, how do I feel that emotion? How do I feel that emotion? Because what's actually happening is there's a resistance to what's happening. So what's happening is there's just the awareness of a sound, and then there's also the awareness of this emotion that's arising, this fear, in this case, that's arising, and then the mind gets turbulent because there's this resistance to what is. What is this emotion, this fear that's simply just arising. And instead of staying as awareness, simply observing this emotion, simply observing the emotion, feeling this emotion fully, what's happening is there's a resistance. There's like this trying to run from it, escaping what is happening, which then the mind appears to be more unsteady and turbulent. So there's a few things that we can point out here. Is one is recognize that you are the awareness that's aware of the tranquil state of mind, and then recognize that you are also aware that that tranquility has then been disturbed by something that's arising in it. Okay? Then realize that that peace is lost because there's this commotion happening. There's a resistance to what is. Right? So you're aware of all of that. All of that is an activity that is arising in you, and you are beyond that activity. So feeling these feelings fully can go two ways. Is essentially you can dive right into the feeling and feel it fully that way, or you can simply watch the feeling as awareness and simply allow that feeling to just simply dissolve. You can either surrender to this feeling fully and you just become this feeling, or you can just simply watch it arise from what feels like a distance from the feeling. But when we are so identified, when we are in this contracted state, then we typically are creating stories with the mind. We're bringing up past memories, and we're resisting what is because of something in the past, this past conditioning, this past trauma. Perhaps you got stung by a bee when you were just a baby or a little boy. But you've got this kind of emotional scar in you, this imprint in the mind, where the last time you heard that bzzz, then you got stung and maybe there was an allergy, or maybe you got stung by a bunch of bees. And then that, now when you hear the bzzz, that's the trigger, which then sets off the memory, and then you relive that same past experience again, just at that, now in this present moment. you could say. And this is kind of how these past traumas really affect us. They're really the part of that conditioned mind. They've conditioned us, right? Now this experience is conditioned based off of your past. This meditation is now conditioned based off of a past event that's happened in your life. Now this is a bee, right? And I can tell you the exact same thing. We're just talking about animals here. The exact same thing happened to me. Not with a bee, but with a dog. When I was younger, I think maybe between the age of 7 or 10, like a German Shepherd, my uncle's German Shepherd was, going nuts and barking and getting all kind of growling. And as a kid, you're just kind of, anything that's like that just feels even more ferocious. And I remember I was, terrified, and it was chasing me, and I had to jump up and get on like a picnic table. This was outside, and it was just like growling. I'm seeing like the drool come from the mouth, and it just looked very, ferocious. It was gonna eat me. And that then I created like a story. I don't like big dogs. All big dogs, are ferocious like that. They're all going to attack me, right? And then this continued on years after, when I was just walking on a sidewalk or a path, and if I saw anything that looked like a German Shepherd or even a big dog, it was like I stepped off the path. I stepped off. I let them walk around me, or I went a long way. It was because of this, again, this past trauma, right? This fear, this terror, this panic, right? And it's about being aware of this, because a lot of times we don't even know that we have this past trauma or this past event that's really conditioned us, that's become some scar that's really within us. And it's really these experiences, really when you're confronting these fears, that you have like two options. That you have the option of, should I avoid it and try and run from it, or should I face it? And we're talking about our fears. So in my case, I recognize that as like, why am I'm always running around these dogs. This is silly. I'm always walking around. Why is this feeling arising whenever I just see a dog on a path on the sidewalk when it's approaching me? Why does this feeling come up, right? So it's the awareness of it, right? The awareness of it. And then it's accepting that it's there. It's accepting that it's there, because you default to rejecting it. You default to not allowing it to be there and trying to resist that. I want this. I don't want this. Right? So once you become aware of that feeling, then it's, this is already in me. And then you allow it to be there. Allow it and just accept it. And then just remain present. Remain present. So this is where at the time it will feel like you can't do this all the time. It'll feel like you kind of go back to a contracted state and you're kind of now in the feeling or fighting with the feeling. So as you become aware of it, and then you simply just allow it, accept it, then you recognize it's already in you. It's already in you. You're just aware of it. That's already in me. Okay, well, let it be. Accept that. It's already there. And then you just remain aware and just be present with it. Be present with it. You're not trying to run from it anymore. You're not trying to resist it. You're just simply present to it. And it's almost as if you kind of hold your ground as awareness. You like just stand as awareness, essentially. And you're like just with this feeling. And it doesn't last that long. It's not like that feeling's going to be there forever, because it's not. No feeling lasts forever. That's just a story of the mind. I can't. This fear is unbearable. It's gonna last forever. I'm gonna be stuck feeling this fear for the rest of my life. These are kind of the stories that the mind tells you. So it's It's just being present with it. And it's just that. It's just that seeing, right? Awareness has this seeing quality to it, right? That you're able to see. You're just perceiving, that you're perceiving this fear. You're allowing it. Just stay there. I accept you. I'm present with you. And then it's that is what transmutes it. That's what starts dissolving these deep emotional scars, these deep samskaras, or these deep mental imprints, these impressions. Imagine like the mind, it's nothing like this, but just imagine this as the analogy. It's like this mind is like a piece of sheet metal, and these kind of terrifying events, these traumatic events in our life that happen early on. They don't always have to happen early on, but they're early on, and they're there. And they could even be from a past lifetime. Who knows? But there's just these mental imprints. So it's like these big dents in this sheet metal, essentially. They're there. But it's like you're not aware of them. And there's a bunch of them. You're not aware of them. And it's kind of like they're so imprinted that it's not going to just be removed by just being aware of it once. But you'll notice that the more you're aware of it and the more kind of comfortable you get with facing your fears and just being present with that feeling and not like losing it to that feeling and just letting that feeling be there, not trying to get all afraid. I took a look and then you ran, right? It's just simply being with it. And being present with it, that's the transforming power of awareness, that it will transmute that feeling, that it will heal that emotional wound. It will remove that imprint. It's like it's pulling out the imprint from the sheet metal, and then it's not there, right? So the whole dog situation that's exactly early on. It's like I just kind of noticed. I'm like, well, this is kind of silly. Like, this is a fear, and I'm going to face my fear. So it was a matter of, okay, staying on the sidewalk and then looking at the dog. I used to like, okay, stay on the sidewalk, but like not look, and then looking off to the side kind of thing, not making eye contact. Like last time I made eye contact with a dog, it wanted to rip my head off, right? To then it got more and more familiar. And it was just kind of like, okay, like kind of almost like, let me push the limits a little bit more. Can I pet the dog? Right? Can I look at the dog's eyes and then pet it? Right? So they're just going, and then it's just that fear just went away. And you're just kind of like, what the heck? It's like for 5 years, I was always afraid of dogs. And then it's just like, what? It's just gone. Right? And some people it's 55 years, right? It requires that awareness. It requires that awareness, because if you're not aware, then you're not even aware that fear is arising. It's just you get so lost in the activity of the mind, and that's where you feel very emotionally unstable. Whereas that's what it kind of, I don't like to use the word teaches, but that's what it kind of enables you to do, is just to be emotionally stable as the awareness. The awareness is, it's still. It's not moving. It's what's aware of all that movement. Right? So it's still, but so then it's the ability to just simply, it's just watching that fear arise, saying, okay, I'm allowing you to be there. Okay, come on, do your thing. Not trying to rush it, not trying to avoid it, not trying to run from it, just simply allowing it to be as it is without trying to change it, accepting it fully, completely, totally, and being present with it. Fully, completely, totally. And that's what you would say is feeling your emotions fully. And when you feel your emotions fully, then that emotion is then released. You have to see that it's you that's suppressing that emotion, that's keeping it down, or it's you that's running from it. That emotion just stays within you. It just kind of keeps on surfacing, keeps on coming up. And the way life is it just kind of keeps on coming up in different events. It's like your deepest fears are just, you'll just see it. They'll just show up as reflections until you face it, until you face your fears. until you embrace your fears, until that fear is felt fully and then released. And then after that, then it no longer has any control over you. You're no longer enslaved by fear. Right? So I just realized that it was just kind of building up, and you just find you're more and more comfortable. You find that it's like you're less and less, you're experiencing less and less of that fear. You'll find that that trigger is not happening anymore. And you'll know that it's gone when there's no more trigger. When you can just simply be with a bee or a dog, or, I mean, we're talking about animals here, and that trigger doesn't come up. Right? So that's just one example, right? That's just one example. And it's just, again, like, to create more awareness, it's like if you're not even aware of that, maybe a bee stinging you when you're a child, and you're not aware that that is the trigger, which then sets you off. It's just, now you know, and then it's can you simply watch it? Because you're still as awareness, even just how fast you hear that zzz, and then the fear arises, you're faster than that, because you are ever present awareness. So everything that you see is instantaneous if you remain as awareness and you don't get contracted, like identified with the mind. Then you're seeing it all. You're seeing it all. You're going to hear the sound, you'll be aware of the sound, and then you'll be aware of the turbulence, that activity, right? But just imagine that if it was something that's, not saying your case, but just, for other people maybe to relate, maybe not a bee bite or a dog, but it could be like child abuse or some sort of sexual abuse, or something more than just an animal. It could have been a fire or something. They could be very subtle too. They don't have to be very traumatic like that. They're just conditions. It could be your parents always saying, it's not good enough when you're bringing home homework or doing artwork as a kid. It's not good, or you colored outside the line, and scolding you for everything, right? Then you have this kind of conditioning. I'm not good enough, right? And then that's kind of on repeat, right? And then, like I said, is life, what it does is it like serves you. It serves you that fear to be faced. It'll serve you events, circumstances, experiences where you will start feeling that unworthiness. In this example, not good enough. You'll feel unworthy. But then it's, again, you'll have to face that. You'll have to dig deep and kind of become more and more conscious of it. Right? So this is really looking at a lot of the things that we repress, that are suppressed, and that's what actual like effort is suppressing our emotions. But then when this goes on for a while, it becomes repressed, when this is happening, but we don't even know it's happening. And that emotion is just buried in the subconscious, and we don't even know it's there, right? Totally unaware of it. And this is where, when awareness starts arising in you, you could say, you awaken to the awareness, you could say, you start becoming more and more aware of past conditionings, things that have happened in your life. And then it's like, just treat it as a practice. Kind of see it as like an invitation to overcome these fears. And this is where, on the spiritual journey, it's very much like these kind of like tests. It feels like you're kind of like going through these tests, like you're coming up to a really challenging point. But you always kind of, knowing this with this video, is you always know it's like it needs to be fully experienced in order to transcend it. You can't transcend when you're not aware of, right? So by being aware of it and experiencing it fully, that's how you then transcend it. You could see it as like a journey, or like a video game kind of thing. Like you're at this level, you could say, and in order to move on to the next level, you have to experience this level fully and complete it, right? So you have to feel that emotion fully, completely. in order to complete it, right? And what happens is if you try and like bypass this stuff on the journey, then you'll never transcend it, because it will always be something kind of feeling like it's incomplete. You haven't learned like the lesson. You haven't experienced it fully. It's like everything that's on this journey needs to be experienced fully. It needs to. That's why I always say that your actual spiritual path is exactly where you are. You don't need to travel anywhere to go on some spiritual journey. It's literally right in front of you. It's this present moment. It's your life. It's what you call your life. Your life is your spiritual journey, right? And when you're living life fully, when you're living life totally, then that's how you complete your journey. That's how you're able to complete certain stages and move on. But if you're always trying to avoid life, if you're always resisting life, if you're always trying to escape life, you can see it. It's like you're not making progress. It's like you're getting, it's like you're always playing the same level, right? So, try some of those steps. Become aware of it, allow it, accept it, be present with it, and who knows? Maybe you'll just have more encounters with bees to feel that. But once you kind of see it with the bee, then you'll start seeing it with other things. You'll start seeing it with a lot of different things in your life. And just like I said, it's just treat it like practice. Have a different kind of, you could say, mindset about it. Whereas most people are usually afraid of their fears and they're running from it and they're like, no way. And have this mindset of you want to face them. You want to embrace it, right? Have this feeling of warmly welcoming these fears. Because see it as the fear is already within you. It's not something that's coming and going. It's already there. So you can't run from it because it's in you. And you can't avoid it because it's in you. So, I mean, when are you gonna face it? When are you gonna embrace it? And you'll see that as soon as you switch that mentality, as soon as you change that attitude, already that puts you in a way better frame of mind, you could say, to then approaching this. It's a different attitude of walking on this journey. Are you going to walk on this journey afraid of everything, or are you going to drop that attitude and just kind of be open? Because the best way to walk on this spiritual journey is with an open mind and an open heart. See you in the next one.